you need an ice scraper, and hopefully in the last couple of days you've been to the store and you've gotten one of these. It's blowing about 60 miles an hour right now. Take a look at how high the water is. This is the aircraft that couldn't make it off the ground this morning because of high winds. It has a very sophisticated camera system, as you can see. Firefighters telling us just a few minutes ago no homes have been burned, but there was a little structure in the middle of that tire pit, and that has burned. Notice most about tornadoes, they're indiscriminate. You could have them cut a path through one particular place, everything in that area is destroyed, but two houses right next door are fine. We begin tonight with a takedown of the third highest ranking Zeta leader. I just got brand new information within the last 5 minutes, and here's what we know. When you cash a check, what is the process? Just tell me what the process is. I asked Alanis to ride with me down 107 to show me what he deals with every day. You press this button, and smoke starts coming out of the back of this car. You can lose whoever's following you. Almost every week, a smuggler is running across school property, around it, sometimes even through it. Kindergartners watched recently as officers took down a smuggler. That is the everyday reality at La Jolla schools.
Students and staff at this time are going into lockdown. Again, students and staff, we're going into lockdown procedures at this time. Be sure that you turn off your lights in your classrooms. Again, teachers, at this time, let's go into lockdown procedures.
A smuggler is on school property. Every single step is deliberate. Every child and every teacher must be locked inside. Nobody comes in, nobody gets out.
They're not allowed to open the doors unless it's the principal, an assistant principal, or a police officer who shows proper identification.
Thank you very much. The lockdown is now lifted. You can go back to regular procedures. Again,
for the first time in 3 months, this was only a drill at Escandon Elementary in La Jolla. Every month in the last 3 months, it was the real deal.
Subject just ran into the fence, crossed the fence. Subject has entered in the elementary school on Schubach in 83.
In September, DPS pilots were watching the smuggler jump fences and run right onto school property.
We had police officers running through our school grounds. We had some first graders and kindergartners outside. They got very scared. We had to send notices to the parents.
108 West Lagoa, we're coming up to the school zone. We're about 3 miles out.
In November, a smuggler almost crashed into 2 school buses to get away from law enforcement.
We can even back off and they're still not going to slow down going through a school zone.
There was an incident in front of one of our schools where police had to use deadly force. They pulled out their guns and they fired at the suspects that were trying to run over the officers. Happened across one of our elementaries. The suspected undocumented people ran through our school. We had to find them inside their school. And it happened when we were releasing kids in the after school. The concern is always that they're going to go into the building and then they might hold our kids hostage. And that's why we do these lockdowns.
La Jolla School District Police Chief Raul Gonzalez needed to make big changes. Surveillance cameras are now going up in every school. Next semester, something else will change.
You know what? From now on, drop off your kids at a designated area in front of the school, and your kids will be escorted by the staff into their classrooms.
He says this is the best way he can serve and protect the children. He says children at La Jolla see the drugs, the chases in their neighborhoods all the time.
We tell them, this is reality.
He wants to turn these incidents into teachable moments. He knows he has to show them they're safe before they can show him they can get the A's. Chief Gonzalez told us he doesn't think La Jolla schools need metal detectors yet, like other schools on the border. He says teachers in La Jolla get training in smuggler tactics and the latest trends the cartels are using. Smugglers are forcing La Jolla to change the national emergency plan all schools must have. How it's different than other plans across the country tonight at 10:30. In the studio, Farrah Fazal, Channel 5 News at 10. This looks like your typical SUV. You see a lot of people driving them around the valley. People use them to go in and out of Mexico every day too. We found some SUVs that look exactly like this. What you don't see is what's behind the doors, what's inside the windshields, and what's under the hood. This is the way some businessmen are doing what they have to do to fight the battle for the border. This is not your ordinary garage.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Not your ordinary cars.
You wouldn't be able to tell that anything's being done to it, but it does weigh about 1,500 pounds more and it's bullet resistant. Fire the hole!
So today we shot an AK-47 variant. It's typically the weapon that most of our vehicles are going to go up against.
We actually manufacture a bullet resistant vehicle. So we install armor in any type of vehicle. We've done all types of vehicles, anywhere from a Honda Accord or a Nissan Maxima, all the way up to a Suburban or just a large SUV.
There's a couple of James Bond type accessories in these armored vehicles. Press this button and about 20 spikes fall out of the back. And if you press this button and smoke starts coming out of the back of this car, you can lose whoever's following you.
The people that buy our types of product, they're very, very wealthy. They have to be willing to spend about $100,000 and $120,000 just on protection alone. Mexican businessmen are one of the largest groups that we sell vehicles to. 100% protection.
Trent Kimball started the Texas Armoring Corporation in San Antonio 15 years ago. His clients buy their own cars, then bring them here.
He's cutting the door panel so that it can fit around the armor material that we have installed.
His workers armor them up.
This is the ballistic steel. It's steel plate, hardened to stop a high-power assault rifle. In order to save weight, we use another material called Spectra Shield. This is what we put inside the tires so that if the tire gets punctured, it's going to continue to roll on this. Right here, this is a reinforced ram, what we call a ram bumper. They're going to push their way through those roadblocks with this type of protection. This is actually about 2 inches thick. It stops AK-47, M16 type weapons.
So when the bullet hits the glass, it basically acts like a catcher's mitt. The bullet will enter and hit the first layers of the glass. Then you have the polycarbonate, which is on the inside, which will basically catch the bullet and prevent the glass from expanding out and all the shards hitting your passengers in the vehicle.
Kimball's clients need to be bulletproof.
There's no way a bullet could penetrate.
Either U.S. citizens or Mexican citizens on either side of those borders that have to either cross the border and come back. They're worried about the violence, the kidnapping for ransom. They have those express kidnappings also, where they just kidnap you for one night and empty your ATM and then let you go.
He told us one of his Mexican businessman clients came to get an armored car after the cartels kidnapped the man's 17-year-old son on his way home from school.
He paid the ransom, his son was released, and you could just see a broken individual, and it was very sad.
Kimball's heard the story over and over.
Now, most of the vehicles that we send are for border, Texas border, Arizona border, California border, where most of the violence is taking place.
Mexican businessmen increased Kimball's business by 100% in the last few years. They didn't become his clients until the cartel violence started a few years ago, as the battle for the border started heating up. Mexicans with money are coming to Kimball to find freedom from kidnappings and killings. They are high on the cartel's target list. They make up 30% of Kimball's clients. The majority of them,
this client actually lives in the Valley area.
Live in the Rio Grande Valley.
It's growing, and there's always going to be a need, unfortunately, for our products.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars to dodge bullets and buy a few more minutes to escape. It is worth it to a select few who can afford it. The cartels also want the same vehicles that you saw in our story. Trent Kimball says he's not selling those cars to the cartels. We asked him, how could he know that? He says the State Department has to investigate and sign off on every vehicle that he sells. We tried to find someone in the valley who owns one of those cars. We couldn't. They don't want to be found. They don't want anybody to know who they are. They're trying to protect themselves. They are stuck in the middle of the battle for the border. In Westlaco, Farrah Fazal, Channel 5 News at 10.